Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
My anus is bleeding!
He can't sit down.
They call them dumps, big massive dumps.
Got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Beta male.
Get in a long tube with a bunch of demons.
Don't you ever do that. Don't you ever do that. I tell you, don't do it.
Oops.
We're under attack. It is an alien force, not of this world. It's not human intelligence.
Bullshit.
Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Bullshit.
It's not a salami sandwich.
Disappointed!
Repeat the line.
Disappointed!
How you like that, boy?
No.
Give me a break.
Stop it.
Fired.
Fired! Fired! Bitch, move it along.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
We have to keep our country gay.
Nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? It's Thursday. Welcome to the show. We're gonna have a little bit of fun. We have also some information relevant to the case against Donald Trump when it comes to the documents. Got a little unmasking going on here. De-hooding, not applicable in this case, at least as far as I know. But an aide has been unmasked. So I'm going to give you the context, the details of that story. First, of course, we are going to talk about how James Comer just keeps falling on his face. Pretty hilarious. I'm going to show you that. We've got also Fox News going, just with more Alex Jones tier conspiracy theories about, this time, non-binary people. Yes, that's right. Going after the NBs. And so, we're going to see how that one goes. We also have transphobes taking another L, at least temporarily, in Kentucky. And then police literally arrest a toddler for having accidents. I'm not kidding. That's the insanity of police. Wow. So with that, notable thing that happened. Supreme Court struck down affirmative action today. So that's a pretty big thing. I think I'll probably get more into that tomorrow. That's pretty big news on that. But we'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay, anyway. With that said, why don't we get to James Comer falling on his face. Gotta love it. Representative James Comer can't seem to name any policies that President Biden had changed after allegedly receiving millions and millions of dollars of foreign money. Take a look.
I heard you yesterday refer to them as a crime family, and this was organized crime. So make it easy for us. What was the crime?
Well, the crime is trading policy for money.
Which policy?
Well, we're going to get into that. I mean, look, Joe Biden has, on day one, he changed our energy policy in America that put China first and America last. He went in on day one and ended the China Initiative, which was an investigation at all our public universities of a very organized Chinese spy ring where China was sending students to universities to steal our research and development.
So you're saying because members of the Hunter Biden family and the extended Joe Biden family got money through various foreign entities, including things from China, that the president is compromised?
Absolutely, absolutely.
How's he compromised?
He's compromised because he's taken so much money from China.
Okay, so Biden is compromised because members of his family took money from Chinese companies, yet apparently the other part of that being compromised, which is, again, passing policy based on the alleged bribes, you can't seem to name any of that. But, okay. Okay, then. So, look, for anybody who's unfamiliar, let me tell you how bribes work. Okay, it's pretty simple. So, an interested party will give you money in return for something. That is the bribe. Okay, so now in this case, it would be what? Policy. So, what did Joe Biden do for China? What kind of policy did he suddenly pass that was different from what he had done before on China as a result of said bribe? Can you name any one of them? No, all the stuff that is completely unrelated. Again, well, he changed our energy policy. Yeah, because the previous president was Donald Trump, whose energy policy was, burn baby burn, essentially. More coal, more coal. We need lots and lots of fossil fuels. More coal, more all this stuff. Yeah, just dig more coal. Yeah, okay.
Clean coal, meaning they're taking out coal, they're going to clean it.
But again, the Obama administration tried to be a little bit more on the side of green energy. And so what Biden did is kind of return to some of those policies prior to Trump. That doesn't have any connection with these alleged bribes from China. Try again. Again, now when it comes to foreign policy, so now foreign policy, the Biden administration's their policy towards China is to try to do more diplomacy. Now, I actually happen to like diplomacy. I think diplomacy is a good idea. And it was just, by the way, what I was saying with Donald Trump and North Korea. I was like, I don't know how this is going to work, but if Donald Trump somehow would get North Korea to denuclearize, and I remember saying this at the time, then that would be a good thing. I would be in favor of that, and I'm in favor of diplomacy. In this case, again, I'm in favor of diplomacy as opposed to trade wars or actual wars. Hey, Republicans, is your policy towards China to try to get us into more conflict? Because that seems to be where you want to go. Just saying. And now, of course, trade wars with China, that would also mean average Americans tend to get hurt. So now, that said, obviously, China has serious labor issues. You know who also has serious labor issues? We do. The United States. And so, you want to harp on that, harp on our labor issues as well, of our corporations. And here's where we really get into why things are the way that they are, right? A lot of our corporations manufacture things in China and then send it here. They make a lot of money doing so because they save on labor costs. So when it comes to bribes, you might want to start looking at corporations, US-based corporations. I've said it before. Tons of legal bribes in the United States come from corporations and go to politicians on both sides of the aisle. So I believe that this attempt at diplomacy, and look, if you want to point out, recent criticism from all the way back in April, like, oh, there were some sanctions or whatever that the Biden administration is slow walking. Yes, that's right. Well, that would be generally at the behest of corporate profits. Again, because corporations are the entities that are donating to political figures. Those are the ones that are doing the legal bribes in this country, as opposed to shady or shady Chinese person handing Hunter Biden a bag of money. It again doesn't make any sense. But here's the other thing too, right? Obviously, Republicans have no proof, no actual tangible proof of anything that's nefarious going on here. No sort of evidence. Okay.
Just forget about the evidence.
But that's what Republicans, James Comer, say. Oh, forget about the evidence, right? We're just going to manufacture stuff, and we're gonna look at some innuendo. Oh, we've got bank records, but none of that, of course, directly ties to your central premise, which is somehow China bribed Biden to do something that he wasn't already going to do. Because he was going to do those things anyway. And again, there's no evidence that any of that money had actually made its way into the hands of Joe Biden. Again, this is all ridiculous. So now, here's the thing. Republicans don't like how Biden is being super aggressive against China like Donald Trump was. And they chalk that up to a conspiracy theory. Because conspiracies and innuendos is really all they have. Again, let's get back to the bribes, right? Now, Comer and Republicans, they know how bribes work. Of course, they get legal bribes from corporations all the time. And by the way, pretty much every politician on both sides of the aisle get legal bribes. It's called campaign contributions. They're called independent expenditures. The Supreme Court has made these things 100% legal in the United States. And of course, what happens when you get these legalized bribes is these politicians will do what the corporations tell them to do, what their donors tell them to do. That's how bribery actually works. And James Comer gets bribed literally all the time. By whom? Fossil fuel companies. One big example, pharmaceutical companies. You go down the list of industries, and of course, you're going to have lobbyists from those industries going and giving campaign contributions and doing their lobbying on Capitol Hill to affect the outcome of policy. And by the way, another effect of that is they usually manage to strip out any policies that help average working class people. So there's that. But again, James Comer knows this because he gets millions of dollars from fossil fuel companies who pour billions of dollars every election season cycle into right-wing causes, think tanks, and congressional campaigns. They give Comer money, and Comer does whatever, they want him to do. In this case, Comer and Republicans are using China as a way to prop up the failing coal industry and to try to, pass laws to deregulate fossil fuels and increase fossil fuel use. That's really it. And so it kind of goes back to the whole thing about, well, China is burning coal, so obviously we're helping China by passing green energy. Yeah, that's the ticket. Yeah, that actually doesn't make any sense. No, we can't control other countries, but we can control what we do and how much we put out into the atmosphere by switching over to alternative energy sources. That, by the way, are actually domestic as opposed to, coal, oil, that kind of thing. And again, is better for the environment and health, human health. So, but as I said before, the fossil fuel industry in the halls of Congress, that's where the real bribery is. So if James Comer, if you're so worried about bribes, I mean, you might want to look inside the House, because that's where it's happening.
Wind.
Okay. Anyway. Moving on to the next story. The identity of one of the people former President Donald Trump is accused of showing classified materials to has been revealed. They have been unmasked. And it's one of his top advisors. Sources familiar with the matter told ABC News that Susan Wiles, an advisor leading Donald Trump's second re-election campaign, is the PAC representative detailed in the special counsel's indictment as the person Trump is alleged to have shown a classified map to back in August or September of 2021. Again, that was when he was no longer president, no longer had the ability to declassify classified documents. Okay. So now Trump, in the indictment, is alleged to have shown the classified map of an unidentified country to Wiles while discussing a military operation that Trump said was not going well. While adding that he should not be showing the map to her and not to get too close. Okay. Wait. Okay. I've got some classified stuff here. I really shouldn't be showing you this. You don't have clearance. But that's okay. Don't get close. I'm not supposed to be telling you this, but I'm telling you this. Just don't get close and it will be fine. What? No. How? Apparently, to Trump, proximity to the actual document itself matters. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that's supposed to make sense. It really doesn't. Doesn't make sense. But then again, look, apparently, smart person, very smart person, very stable genius. So everything's fine. I can just shout classified information at you, as long as you stay. What? How many feet away from the document do you have to be? Do you have to be like 5 feet away, 10 feet away, or what? Down the hall? I don't know. I don't know how it's supposed to work. Look, I don't know how it's supposed to work in Trump world, but I do know how it works in the real world. And I got to note that the document itself, as in the paper itself, is not the thing that is actually top secret. No, the information that he is literally telling other people in the room, that is what's top secret. The information. Does he not know this? No, of course he knows this. Look, he's a dumb person. Stupid. Okay. But he knows this. He knows it's top secret. In fact, he says, it's top secret. I shouldn't be telling you this. But then says it anyway. Because of course. Now, look, this is a pattern. This isn't the only time. In fact, in the indictment, there's at least 2 times where he was doing the same thing. The alleged exchange between Trump and Wiles is the second of 2 instances detailed by prosecutors in the indictment, showing how Trump allegedly disclosed classified information in private meetings after leaving the White House. ABC News has reported the meeting involved people who were helping Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, with his memoir. According to the sources, Smith's team has spoken to the meeting's attendees, which included the writers helping Meadows with his book and at least 2 aides to Trump, according to sources. Now, there's more. Sources have also further identified some of the other figures mentioned by Smith's team in the indictment. So first we've got Trump Employee 1 and Trump Employee 2, who was Haley Harrison and Molly Michael, respectively. Now, there's some text messages in this indictment, and in these text messages, back and forth, they talk about moving Trump's boxes around Mar-a-Lago. Interesting. So Michael, whose name was previously reported as an individual identified in the indictment, is Trump's former executive assistant who no longer works for him, while Harrison is currently an aide to Trump's wife, Melania. Now, here's what the texts say. There's still a little room in the shower where his other stuff is. It is only his papers he cares about. Trump Employee 1, identified as Harrison, wrote Trump Employee 2, identified as Michael, according to the indictment. There's some other stuff in there that are not papers. Could that go to storage, or does he want everything in there on property? So, now wait a minute. Oh yeah, there's some room in the shower where his other stuff is. You're putting boxes that may contain, and if we're to believe some of his account at least, interspersed with his personal effects and classified documentation. You want, oh yeah, just put that stuff in the shower. Yeah, no, totally fine. Keep it in the bathroom. Why? Why? Why is it in the bathroom? Well, I mean, maybe it's because wanted to get rid of some of it, or maybe not. I don't know.
People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times.
Either way, probably not a good place to put stuff that could have boxes that could have classified information in them. But I get, what do I know? What do I know? Now, there's more. Okay. According to the indictment, Trump's longtime aide Walt Nuada and Trump employee 2, again identified by sources as Michael, had also exchanged text messages. This is between November 2021 and January 2022. And they talked about bringing boxes from the storage room to Trump's residence so he could personally review their contents. In one instance in December 2021, Nuada texted Trump employee number 2 about finding that several of Trump's boxes had fallen onto the floor with their contents spilled out, and sent a photo to her whose image included a document with visible classification markings. Hey, I'm just letting you know that your box filled with classified materials fell over, and you know it's all over the floor now. Just thought I'd let you know. Here's a picture, you know, of classified material. Wow. Okay. It's amazing. Now, Nuada was charged alongside Trump earlier this month, conspiracy to obstruct justice, making false statements. There's more, by the way. He and Trump employee number 2, identified as Michael, exchanged messages back and forth about the status of Trump's review of the boxes. This was on December 29, 2021. Trump employee 2 texted Trump representative 1, who sources say is former Trump lawyer Alex Cannon, to provide him an update. Cannon was in touch with the National Archives and is responsible for facilitating the initial transfer of 15 boxes from Mar-a-Lago back to the National Archives in January of 2022. So, obviously, everybody's talking about like the boxes. Donald Trump's got to go through them. And he's going through them, I guess, supposedly to find classified documents that he shouldn't have, to separate them out from his personal effects and then to send them back. But we know that is unfortunately not the case, because he went through them and he's like, I'm going to keep this. I'm going to keep that. Ooh, I'm going to keep this. Hey, oh, wow, look at this. I got these attack plans that I was given by the military, by General Milley. You know what? I didn't want to attack Iran. This is proof. It makes my case. I never wanted to attack Iran because literally, here's the attack plans that I didn't agree with. They're classified. You shouldn't see them. Oh, maybe you should just stay 5 feet away from them. No, this guy, completely and utterly reckless with national secrets. And on purpose. By the way, it wasn't just stupid. It was, again, it wasn't just stupid or reckless. It was all on purpose. He wanted to keep these documents for, I don't know, whatever reason. At this point, it doesn't really even matter why he wanted to keep the documents. What mattered is that he obstructed efforts to get back these documents that did not belong to him. And yet he thought, for whatever insane reason, these are mine. I'm going to keep them no matter what, even though it's against the law. And I know that it's against the law. I don't care. I'm going to keep them anyway. And that's what's going on. So now, let me note that these people have been unmasked, okay? But they have not been accused of any wrongdoing. And as such, there is a possibility that they could be called in as witnesses in Donald Trump's trial. Now, as many of them, specifically, Susan Wiles, being, someone who's leading Donald Trump's second re-election campaign, if she's called in to be a witness, that's going to be a little awkward. That whole not being able to lie under oath thing about what she had saw. Awkward. Little awkward. We'll see how that all plays out. But it will be pretty interesting. Okay. All right. Let's move on to Fox News Insanity. Fox host Greg Gutfeld is channeling Alex Jones. Take a look.
It's okay to cry, my fellow guys. Survey finds that 71% of modern men, who is this, confess to being in touch with how they feel, and 82% of women are saying the same thing. I can't even see who this survey is. 37% of men say being called sensitive would be a compliment, versus just 23% of women. I know, but first I want to go to Jesse. So I think we're learning that RFK Jr. was right. There are substances in the water that reduce testosterone, and when you reduce testosterone, you get these weepy men and this rise in non-binary affiliations.
Yeah, so I'm not drinking water anymore because he's told me it turns you trans.
Yeah, it turns you trans, especially if you're a frog.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
Lunatic stuff. Let me tell you what. Yep. It's amazing. What was once fringe, Alex Jones stuff is now like mainlined on Fox News. Wow. Again, lunatic stuff.
It's not human intelligence.
I would say it's not any intelligence whatsoever in that room. Okay. So, no. Okay. I know. But it's the chemicals. It's the chemicals. You see, there are chemicals. It's atrazine. It's in the water. It actually does trans the frogs. It changes male frogs into female frogs. Yeah, guess what? We're not frogs. That's not how it works. We're not frogs. Our bodies do not work the same way. Now, that said, is there chemicals that get into the water and do harm to human beings and animals? Oh, yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. By the way, there's PFAS, which are the forever chemicals. There's microplastics. There's all sorts of other things that are in not only the water, but, the air, pollutants, etc., that are pretty dangerous, right? That said, does Greg Gutfeld care about any of that other stuff? Now, does Greg Gutfeld even care about water? Chemicals tainting the water supply. I mean, he's talking about it now, but back in 2015, he was actually fine with one big polluter of water, and that is hydraulic fracturing, or otherwise known as fracking. In fact, he had written an article for the National Review back in 2015 saying how much he loves fracking for natural gas. Quote, "That's the weird thing about fracking," he writes. "What are we fracking? Natural gas. That's why I am for it. I am pro-environment. And most environmentalists were for natural gas because it was natural." None of that makes any sense. None of that's true. Oh yeah, no, it's we're there for natural gas because it's natural. What? That argument doesn't make any sense because, guess what also is natural because it occurs in nature? Oil. Yeah. Just because it's natural does not mean it's good. Okay? That's the other thing too. But he then says natural gas was the alternative to all those dirty fuels. Which, by the way, natural gas is also a dirty fuel. releases the fracking process releases methane, and also when you burn it, it releases methane and carbon dioxide. But again, I'm apparently confusing people with science. I know. Sad. Sorry. He then wrote, then I explained that environmentalists changed their tune as we found better ways to access it. So the only difference among environmentalists before the boom and after was the boom. We found more of this amazing clean fuel. In short, the greenie would be for fracking if we did less of it. Now, okay, again, here's the thing about fracking. And then, of course, what I already mentioned was methane and the burning, the emissions, etc. So how do they get the natural gas out of the rocks? Well, they take a proprietary fluid and inject it into the ground to, break up the rocks and release the natural gas. That fluid is filled with chemicals. I know. Weird, right? In fact, in 2020, the Penn Medicine News quoted assistant professor of informatics at the Perelman School of Medicine at the University of Pennsylvania, somebody named Mary Regina Boland. She said this, quote, the chemical mixtures used in fracking are known to regulate hormonal pathways, including testosterone and estrogen, and can therefore affect human development and reproduction. I'm sorry. Are you worried? Are you worried now about chemicals affecting testosterone? Better stop fracking, or else you won't be able to frack.
Sexual anarchy.
Yeah. I mean, oh no, I'm in favor of fracking because it's so wonderful and so great and so clean. I'm just going to completely ignore the studies, about how the fluid can get into, leach into, water supplies as it has and cause all sorts of nasty things. Now, look, okay. Before I get to that, let's get more into her quote, because there's more of it. She said, knowing about these chemicals is important, not only for researchers who may be studying health outcomes in a community, but also for individuals who may want to learn about more about possible health implications based on their proximity to a well, then they can have potentially their water tested. So, okay. If you live near a fracking well that Greg Gutfeld loves, it's a very high likely possibility that you're going to get chemicals in your water that do worse, by the way, than make frogs gay or trans. Okay? As if that's a bad thing. These chemicals, remember, okay, do you just remember the videos of people lighting their tap water on fire? Yeah, that's what chemical, that's what the fracking does to your groundwater if it contaminates it. Imagine what would happen if you drink that, but you don't have to. Look, people have gotten cancers, all sorts of different health, very, very negative health outcomes from drinking this contaminated water. But does Greg Gutfeld care about that? No, he's okay with it. He says, it's such a great fuel. Now, one last thing. And it should be obvious, but I have to mention it anyway. No, tap water is not making non-binary affiliations. Okay? Non-binary people have always existed. They are not created in a lab. They are not created by chemicals put into the water. RFK Jr. is, again, wrong. Just wrong. Now, chemicals, again, in the water, yes, can make it more likely to develop cancers, health problems, infertility is another one. And those are serious issues, okay? Now, do you know what we should do as a result? We should probably, regulate industry, so they can't pollute our waterways. So, I mean, that seems to be the obvious thing. But again, you ask people, any one of those people on the panel about, hey, should we regulate this stuff? They would say, no regulation. These companies are killing business. You're destroying America and our energy independence. You're helping China. So it's obvious exactly, what they want to do and why they're talking about this. Because they have this weird thing like, oh, masculinity, men are not being men anymore. And it's because of the whatever and the chemicals and all this stuff. Again, weirdo fringe Alex Jones stuff. And then here comes RFK Jr. to say, yep, that's absolutely, that's it. Yep. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing, though. So RFK Jr. is insidious. And let me tell you why. He is able to weaponize the well-earned distrust by the American people of corporations and corrupt government agencies and institutions. Again, I say well-earned distrust because you do have government agencies that are affected by lobbyists, lobbyists from interest groups, corporations, etc., that just want to maximize profit. And they use money in politics. They inject money into politics, buy off politicians, who then, go on to get appointed to regulate, agencies. Or, by the way, these politicians will have the power to appoint people from industry to then go and regulate industry. And what do? They don't regulate it, they deregulate it. And so that's what's going on. And that's the corruption in the system that is, again, spurred by lobbying and money in politics. That creates this corruption, and again, creates these corrupt institutions that do not put human beings, our health and safety on the forefront. They put corporate profits in the forefront. But again, what RFK Jr. does is that he goes and weaponizes that. And instead of actually, again, making the focus about, hey, look, we need to stop these corporations. We need to do some regulation of industry. We need to get money out of politics. We need to do all this stuff. He again says, you got to watch out. That water is going to make you gay. What? Wait, what? No. Again, he's attacking science. And so there are good things from science, like vaccination. Saved millions of lives. RFK Jr. says, no, vaccine bad, actually. And then blames chemicals for the existence of LGBTQ people. And that's, again, incredibly dangerous because I'm going to mention LGBTQ people have always existed. They're not a social contagion. They're not something that you need to treat or cure. They are not broken. They are not created by chemicals. They're not some part of shadowy plan to eliminate straight people and destroy the nuclear family. No. All of that is just nonsense, right-wing conspiracy fear-mongering. Now, look, my final thought on this is we should be challenging corporations, 100%. And we should, of course, follow science. Yes, we can ask questions when it comes to chemicals, and we should, ask questions of corporations, and we should definitely follow the money, right? We should ensure that these companies are not allowed to pollute our water supplies with chemicals that they've been doing. Again, PFAS is a great example. But in doing so, we've got to make sure, we've got to be careful not to let right-wing conspiracy theorists, cures or whatever, people that promote that stuff to come in and weaponize science against other human beings. And to weaponize pseudoscience against science. And, by the way, also to allow people to weaponize science or pseudoscience against the LGBTQ community. We've got to be careful in having these discussions, especially on the left. When, of course, we all do not trust corporations, big pharma, and the plenty of the things that RFK Jr. does bring up on those issues. But we've got to be careful, again, to stay grounded and to make sure that we're using our heads here, that we're make sure that we're following science to make sure that we're fighting the right people, not LGBTQ people, but fighting against corruption, corporate corruption and pollution, and not helping idiots like Greg Gutfeld. There. Moving on. All right. Transphobes have taken yet another L, at least temporarily, this time in Kentucky. Now, a federal judge recently sided with the ACLU of Kentucky, temporarily blocking a section of a recently passed law that bans gender-affirming healthcare for transgender minors. So now, in his ruling, Obama appointee Judge David J. Hale said, quote, "Based on the evidence submitted, the court finds the treatments barred by SB 150 are medically appropriate and necessary for some transgender children under the evidence-based standard of care accepted by all major medical organizations in the United States." In fact, these drugs, he says, have a long history of safe use in minors for various conditions. By the way, mention non-trans minors have been using these drugs. So this is not a new thing. Hale continued, it is undisputed, that puberty blockers and hormones are not given to prepubertal children with gender dysphoria. So now, all of this should be, I should say, if you're gonna comment on this stuff, you should probably know the basics. But the right wing who talks about this stuff doesn't really care about knowledge, doesn't really care about the facts or statistics or even the specifics of treatment, and how, again, there are reasons that every major medical organization supports this and supports gender-affirming care and points to the safety and efficacy of these drugs and how they save people's lives. So now, there's a reason, and again, it's because we have evidence. I know, evidence. But, okay. So now, in this lawsuit, the ACLU had taken issue with the portion of the bill that prohibits healthcare providers from providing puberty blockers or hormones and performing surgeries like phalloplasty, vaginoplasty, or hysterectomies and vasectomies on minors. Now, you might think, well, wait a minute. Whoa. Why would the ACLU be prohibiting or have a problem with prohibiting surgeries for minors? You wanna mutilate children, don't you? No, the reason that the ACLU had a problem with it, with this being in the bill, is because it's not happening. But when you put it in a bill, it makes it seem like it is. Instead, that's the problem with the messaging here. Okay? So the right wing puts all this stuff that isn't actually happening into this legislation to make it look like, oh, look at all this stuff is happening. But don't worry, we heroic conservatives have just protected the children by banning things that aren't actually happening. And then when people are like, why did you ban this? What's wrong with you? They're like, oh, so you're defending the sex change surgeries on minors, aren't you? A groomer pedophile. So understand that this is the tactic. This is what they're doing. Okay? But again, conservatives banning things that aren't actually happening, taking credit for it, and that's what they're doing. Transgender advocates have said such surgeries on minors were not happening in Kentucky. Because again, you also have to look at this, right? So the outrage by the right wing on all of this stuff, again, that isn't actually happening. You also have to look at how few transgender people there are in this country. That's like a very, very, very small percentage of the population of the United States. And this is the thing that they're focusing on. This is the thing they're talking about endlessly. Kentucky's first openly trans elected official, Rebecca Blankenship, noted in a recent KET appearance that, quote, every LGBT organization in the Commonwealth said that we were absolutely fine with banning those surgeries for minors because it's not happening. Quote, we might as well ban unicorn attacks. It makes no difference. I think that's a great quote. A fantastic quote. Okay. So now, that said, Republicans not happy about this. Here is Republican Attorney General Daniel Cameron, who called the ruling, quote, misguided. Cameron, who is running for governor, said that in a statement that, quote, SB 150 is a common sense law that protects Kentucky children. No, but it actually doesn't. He then added, there's nothing affirming about this dangerous approach to mental health. My office will continue to do everything in our power to defend this law passed by our elected representatives. So let me just note, dangerous approach to mental health. So already, what does that signal? That children with gender dysphoria are suffering from mental health. Oh, you see, it's not actually a legitimate gender identity. No. It's just a mental health problem. They're mentally ill. That's it. They're just mentally ill. They said the same thing about gay people not more than, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And up until, still probably today in some circles, before it got taboo for some to say that kind of stuff. It's not a mental illness. Again, orientation, not mental illness. Gender identity, not mental illness. But they do that to try to stigmatize it. And notice how, once again, when they don't actually want to solve any problems, for example, the gun issue, they'll turn to, mental illness. See, it's mentally, they're mental ill. They're mentally ill. And when it comes to trying to deny transgender people rights, they just point at, they're mentally ill. And so for number one, they're going after transgender people, the LGBTQ plus community, with some pretty nasty bigoted attacks and a way to, of course, strip them of their civil rights, because that's what this is, a civil rights issue. And on the same breath, they are also being incredibly ableist towards, people with mental illnesses. So they're disgusting on several different fronts, all at the same time. Congratulations, Republicans. You're gross in so many different ways. But look, it's good that these laws all across the country, since this is a civil rights issue, it runs afoul of the Constitution, these bans, okay? And so you have all these different federal judges that are putting stops on these laws, which again are just laws not to protect children, but to, have people get focused on an issue that isn't actually an issue. It's not there's no problem here. Transgender people are not a problem to be fixed. Transgender people deserve civil rights and for people to acknowledge their chosen identity. It's called respect. Okay? They don't want to respect people. They don't care because they don't have any respect for anyone but themselves. I shouldn't be forced to use pronouns. But you use pronouns all the time. Suddenly, now you're allergic to it. Weird how that works out. Maybe it's because all of this bigotry is a way to distract people from the fact that Republicans are not doing anything to help anyone's, material conditions get better. And that's what's going on. That's what they're doing. They're using this issue as a cover so that they can continue to rob average working people, distracting them with an attack, a civil rights attack against a marginalized, group of people. It's the oldest story in the book. Attack the marginalized, and while their backs are turned, you pick their pocket. And that's exactly what they're doing. It's exactly what they're doing. So, again, I love watching these terrible bills go down in flames, L after L after L, and it's fantastic to see. I only wish that it wasn't just temporary, that these would continue to be struck down, and that gender affirming, care and people's civil rights, the civil rights of LGBTQI plus people, all of them were to be enshrined in the Constitution. Of course, unfortunately with the current Supreme Court makeup, we're probably not going to see that. Okay. So let's move on to police officers in Florida being Florida. Yeah. Ooh, we got a transphobe in the chat. Lovely. Stick around, you might actually learn something. Unless you hate knowledge and facts. And you just want to, have an excuse to pick on people for whatever reason, to be a piece of shit bully. Now, you don't want that, do you? Or maybe you do. All right. Two Florida police officers are under investigation after one of them admitted to putting their toddler in jail. Yes, literally putting a 3-year-old in jail for the horrible crime of having an accident in their pants. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Dumps.
Okay, and this is not a funny story, though. So, according to the Daytona Beach News-Journal, Lieutenant Michael Schoenbrod told a Department of Children and Families caseworker that a son had been having difficulty potty training. Okay, so and look, that happens. I can understand, it could be frustrating, whatever. His solution, though, as he had told his caseworker, was, I'm just going to put the kid in jail. What? Now, apparently, he had put him in jail not just once, but over successive days. And he was proud of it. In fact, according to body camera footage from a Volusia County Sheriff's Office deputy, quote, Schoenbrod said, he was crying. I was getting the response I expected from him. Well, he's 3, and he's in a jail cell. Yeah, of course he's going to cry. And you're like, yeah, oh, yeah, I did it. Got him. What? Now, it gets worse. On the second time that he was put in a jail cell, the officer's son was also handcuffed. Yes, little baby handcuffs for the toddler. Again, talking about a literal 3-year-old child. But this is not the only time, by the way. And not the only child. His other child, Schoenbrod, had also bragged about putting in jail after an incident. He told the caseworker that he did something similar with his then 4-year-old son after he had hit a girl and was misbehaving at preschool, the News-Journal reported. So wait a minute. Now, look, I understand kids will get, they'll play and they'll even hit other kids sometimes. But this makes me wonder if something's going on at his house. Because, I don't know, kids also tend to mimic what they see at home. And so if you're having, this kid hitting girls, I should say, and acting out, could that be a reflection of things that this child has possibly seen? We know there's a statistic out there where there are a lot of cops that beat their wives. Now, in this case, I don't know, because it turns out the other parent here is also a cop. But let me get to that after this quote of him bragging. Quote, he was crying and everything. And to this day, if you mention like that incident, he's just like, I would never do that again. As for the 3-year-old, he again had promised, after being put in a literal jail cell and handcuffed, that he would never have an accident again. Quote, it was effective. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's effective at, steering both of those children towards eventual therapy sessions. I mean, come on. Oh, yeah, no, it's just tough on love. It's tough on love. Or, tough love, I should say. I mean, tough on love kind of sounds like tough on crime. So I guess that kind of makes sense how my brain made that connection. But again, I mentioned the other officer. Schoenbrod co-parents the child with the department, with Detective Sergeant Jessica Long of the Daytona Beach Shores Public Safety Department. So basically, these children have cops as parents, and I feel bad for them. I feel really, really terrible for them. Now, the department announced that it had launched an internal investigation of the two. However, there have been no findings that have been released, and it remains unclear whether the city has or will discipline the officers involved, and my guess is probably not. The Daytona Beach News Journal did note that the two officers had 20 hours of unpaid leave last month, but anything other than that, my guess, they're probably just, not going to see any sort of any sort of punishment or nothing like that. So, I mean, there it is. Cops doing what I see as like literal child abuse. Nope, totally fine. Apparently in Florida. Well, there it is. That is a pretty messed up story. Why didn't the mother arrest the other for child abuse and misconduct? Probably because that mother's also a cop and is like, oh yeah, that's totally fine. That's my assumption. Florida. Okay. All right. So, that's all I got for y'all today. I'm going to go to YouTube and read some super chats, member comments before I head out for the day. Ryan Nowicki says, for SCOTUS striking down affirmative action, there is a significant overlap for minorities in the lowest income neighborhoods. It can help address this. Okay. Shane McAndrew says, it's so sad to see Olivia Giuliana start as an abortion activist to a Democratic Party apologist. That is definitely related to some Twitter drama that I'm seeing. And so I'm trying to stay away from that Twitter drama because really it doesn't really help anyone or matter too much, in my opinion. You can disagree. But for me, it's just Twitter nonsense. Vote who you're gonna vote for, whatever, and it shouldn't matter what other people say. Okay. That's just my opinion on it, though. And you can disagree, and that's fine. This is America. I believe in freedom.
USA. USA. USA.
Freedom. All right. Thank you for the super chats, by the way. Appreciate that. Thank you, Twitch viewers, as well, for watching, sharing, all that wonderful stuff. Thank you all. Appreciate you. I'm going to send Twitch viewers over to James from the internet. To everyone else, thank you all. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Love you, and remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you back here, tomorrow.
Whoopsie.
There's insanity in the control room.
Tighten up my knee. I like my knee tight. It's not a salami sandwich.
Disappointed!
Jewish space lasers. Woke mob.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
Whoopsie.